Welcome to Familiar Territory, an anime podcast hosted by two white dudes who've been friends for over 15 years. Here we talk about the history and influence of anime, as well as review anime new and old. So grab your talking cap and transform into some comfy clothes as we step into a familiar territory. My name is Grant.
And I'm Brantley. Heads up, spoilers on the way. Check the description, see if you're safe to listen.
If it cannot break out of its shell, the chick will die without being born. We are the chick. The world is our egg. If we don't crack the world's shell, we will die without truly being born. Smash the world's shell. For the revolution of the world.
Oh. Okay. That wasn't so hard.
I fucking hate you.
You know, they really kind of made it seem like breaking the world shell was a lot more difficult than it really was. Did I get egg on my carpet? Oh, shit. All right, hold on. Podcast canceled.
Did you?
No, I think I'm okay.
Do you just have like a bowl of runny egg right now?
Would you judge me if I did?
No, yes, but like I'm already judging you for doing this. But do you just have like were you like, I'm gonna crack an egg into a bowl? That will be my opening. I will crack an egg into a bowl, and then for the rest of the podcast, I'm just gonna have a loose egg sitting in a bowl next to me. Is that what you are fucking doing right now?
No. No, I'm not. No, I'm not doing that. In fact, I'm walking away right now to go put it away. I'll be right back.
I really like long jokes that have to have the other person go off and fix their hubris. And the thing is I can't even talk about anything particular because he's not here to listen to me. So I can't be like, oh, this is the show we watched. Because he's going to be like, hey, Grant, what kind of show did we watch? And I can't be like, we watched this one. I mean, you would know that we watched Utena by the title, I'd assume. This has been significantly longer than I thought it would be.
Revolutionary Girl Utena.
There it is.
It's here. We finished it.
We did. It was, I believe, our 7th?
Yeah, I think our 7th episode ever. And that was back summer of last year.
Yeah, man. It was a post pre-COVID world. It was a post giving a shit about COVID world. Which is relevant because we are back in a post giving a shit about COVID world.
Yeah.
But we watched it. We watched all of it. All 39 episodes in the hour and a half long movie.
Yeah. This is now the giving a shit about Utena world.
Yes, it is.
We're breaking the shell.
How many egg jokes can we make in this entire
We've
season?
already probably made more than we did in Wonder Egg, which is a shock, but
God damn. That is true.
Anyways, so we're going to be reviewing Revolutionary Girl Utena and Adolescence of Utena, the movie sort of follow-up, spin-off-esque thing? Maybe not spin-off.
Yeah.
How about spiritual reboot, successor, remake? God, I love Utena and all its weirdness. So this is going to be weird as a review, because we'll probably still call it a review, but there's so much to Utena, in terms of, like critique and observation and interpretation that you can draw from it, and people have, that we're simply not going to have something comprehensive here, right? Like, I get that some people probably feel like they can understand Utena in its totality, but I don't think we are here for that. If you want to see like someone's literary analysis on the show, someone's already been there and done that, right? We're here for something a lot more disorganized and a lot more raw, I think. So
Just like that egg that is currently sitting in your fridge.
No, I didn't put it in the fridge. I put it in the trash, which is probably a worse place to put it. I'll need to rinse that out. Okay, so really quickly, if you're interested at all, go watch this on YouTube. Yes, I said YouTube. Nozomi actually uploaded it as like an incentive, I guess, for people to go buy the DVDs. So it's just there officially. The dub's pretty all right. It's clunky, sure, but they clearly are like trying. To the point where you'll notice like throughout the course of the show they adjust how they pronounce characters' names when they think they've like figured out like, oh, we've been kind of pronouncing the name wrong a little bit. So yeah, it's out there. It's easy to find. You don't have to pay for it. Go check it out. Grant, what are your overall feelings on it now that you've seen it?
I think Utena, I would like it a lot better if it wasn't made in the 90s. Not to say that I don't like the aesthetic. I love the aesthetic. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the there are so many episodes that are just so, oh, it's a 90s wacky anime, wowie, zowie, whoa. And I'm like, I don't fucking care. But at the same time, I wonder if that charm is what makes me enjoy it more, and I don't really see it. Utena is separated into two parts. There are 32 episodes of 90s anime bullshit,
mm-hmm.
and there are 7 episodes of incredibly deep shit that's really, really good.
I would argue there's quite a few more strong episodes in that mix, but I know where you're coming from. Right. It's fair to say that this show has a despite aesthetically feeling very like auteur, at the hands of Chiho Saito and Kunihiko Ikuhara and everybody else who worked on it. It has that feeling, but it also definitely has the feeling of, God, we don't have the money for this. And so, like, it sort of, it really is kind of up to your good or bad faith in it, whether or not, say, the repetitive elements work as, an aesthetic part of Utena's storytelling, or if it's just like, hey, look, they're using footage again because they need to pad out the episode a little longer and they can't reanimate it. So I think Grant and I will diverge a little bit on that, but for the most part, like, I do agree on the sentiment you're giving.
Like, okay, so before we get into the nitty gritty, I don't even know if there is a nitty gritty in this episode. I told you handle it. But like, let's talk about the Nanami episode where she becomes a cow.
I fucking knew it.
Now, this is not to be confused with the episode where Nanami thinks she laid an egg, or be confused in the episode where Nanami tries to get Anthe to be a weirdo by putting snails and snakes and an octopus in her room. Not to be confused with the episode where Choo Choo switches bodies with a green-haired bitch. And all of these end with that. Like, this isn't like, oh, and then everything goes back to normal. This just happens. When Nanami becomes a cow, there is nothing you can say to me to try and make me think that wasn't just people shooting the shit and making a wacky episode. And it has no connection to the rest of the plot. And then in the movie, they bring it back for like 2 minutes. And that's where Naname is in the movie. She's not even in the movie. She's a cow. I can't fucking stand that shit.
I love it.
You can give me arguments about the Anthe's egg. I mean, not the Anthe's, the Nanami's egg episode. You can give me arguments about the Nanami trying to pin all this weird shit on Anthe. You can give me these episodes that are like, oh, but it really is about how, what's his nuts? Green Boy. What's Green Boy's name? They're like, oh, Sayonji is a foil to Choo Choo because of this, or I don't fucking know, right? Like, there's nothing you can tell me and be like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But that episode where she becomes a cow makes no sense. And it's not even like, oh, you just didn't think of it right. I'm pretty sure that they got high as shit and were like, hey, what if she wore a cowbell? I'm like, okay. And she became a cow. I'm like, all right, what does this have to do with the rest of the story? It doesn't. That's the shit I don't get. Not even that's the shit that makes this, like, fuck.
Oh, I could elaborate my own feelings on episodes
elaborate away.
But I don't want to.
Elaborate away. No,
here's the thing. I want someone to go and watch them themselves instead.
No, I need you to this is a podcast in which we discuss our thoughts about anime.
Ah, come on. Okay, fine.
And like 20 people watch it. And I need to know what you got out of those episodes.
Okay. They're sidebars to essentially use anonymity as a way to tell stories about growing pains and like social culture and that kind of thing. So it's like, hey, in the cowbell episode, Nanami's trying to acquire prestige with what she wears, without even giving a second thought to what it is she's wearing, just because it's got a big brand name attached to it.
But it doesn't.
And so
she's just like, I'm wearing a cowbell.
No. There's like it's from this mega popular brand like Celine Dior or something like that, and then it turns out in the end it was a very similar sounding brand that instead sells cow accessories. So that's like the purpose of those episodes is to tell stories about like youth and fitting in, when Utena and Anthe wouldn't really make sense to tell those stories.
What's your favorite Celine Dior song? Name one song by The Reference by Celine Dion. Name one song.
I can't.
My Heart Will Go On, you son of a bitch.
Sorry. I guess we're just kind of failing each other in all sorts of ways in this episode. Oh man, do you want to actually talk about the...
Yes, let's talk about the anime that isn't the cow episodes.
Hey, revolutionary girl Utena is gay as hell, and that's cool.
It is our first canonical, consensual woman-on-woman kiss.
Hooray! Which has taken us a far longer time than we would have expected to get to.
Yeah, I said that yesterday or 2 days ago or whenever we finished this show, and one of our friends was like, really? And I looked back, and I'm like, I mean, I guess X-arm counts, but that's not romantic.
And that's not really, like...
It's not
that can
really
hardly be called consensual, because they don't want to, like...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more like, do it so then main character guy can control the robot person. Like...
Alright, we're not talking about
X-arm. Yeah, we're not talking about X-arm.
But yeah, it's gay as hell, and it's pretty good about it.
Yeah.
I wish the show was more gay. I know that's a weird thing to say. There's a lot of implications in this show, and then in the movie, they basically just smash your face into the sapphic love.
I think perhaps the issue is that there's plenty of there's plenty of homosexuality in Utena, right? Where it's like boys loving boys, girls loving girls, etc. The problem being that a lot of times these things are also being problematized through power dynamics or like age gaps or blood relation and things like that. So you can't really say like, oh, check it out, boy power, these dudes are in love because one of them is definitely being used by the other, and one is adult and one is still in high school. Like, it's
Yes.
yeah, you just can't go like feminism when Jury's unrequited love is causing her a great amount of grief and emotional stress. Oh, it's just
Well, and then in the movie they make her girlfriend or like unrequited. Well, they both kind of like each other in the TV show. Like it's implied that they love each other. They just can't be together.
Maybe sorta. I've got my own feelings on that, but yeah, I get what you mean.
In the movie, they're like, this girl's the bad guy.
Exactly. By the way, this is as good as time as any to bring up. Between the movie and the series, there are things that are very different. Like, for example, characters will just 100% be dead in the movie, and they weren't dead in the TV series. And even the farthest stretches of, like, allegory couldn't really explain that. However, Grant and I are of the opinion that the movie makes a lot of sense as a follow-up to the series, in that, like, there's some, like, world traveling and, metaphysical fuckery that's going on. So when we talk about things like characterization and plot later, we're probably going to intermix the two. So if it sounds like we're making weird references to stuff that doesn't exist, that's why. It's, it's because we're allowing those gelatins to sort of mix.
Yes. Yeah. And like, we'll separate it and we'll talk about our thoughts later.
I should probably lay out my thoughts on the series overall. I'm compromised. I can't give a fair review of the show. I've seen it twice now. I feel like I understand it much better the second time, and I like vibe with it, a lot stronger. But I'm incapable of looking at the show and viewing it in like a moderate or like neutral or fair way. Like I can only zoom way in, or I can zoom way out, and I don't get anything in the middle. So please don't expect anything that resembles an objective review out of me in this episode. If you want like a more honest reading of like the series, I think Grant is your go-to on this.
Yeah, but when have we ever given anything objectively?
That's good. Yeah. I would say that's the most precise way of framing our reviews. But if you were to try to, if you're gonna take someone's opinion, take Grant's on this, because I'm just gonna love whatever they throw at me. Like, and I'm not kidding. Like, there's like episode 26.
Hold on, I have a list up.
Oh yeah? Or are you looking at which episode that is? Here, I'll explain.
Yes.
It's Toga and Miki, and they're at the piano, and like for whatever reason, the piano and their chair is like lifted off of the ground in the way it's drawn.
Oh.
And they're just like floating off the floor. And I'm guessing it's just an animation error with how they're like layered onto the background painting. But fuck it. I'm going to try to interpret that into something. Like, oh, maybe it's a metaphor. Like, it's just my habit. So like, I really can't tear myself away from that. Through the entire adventure of what essentially boils down to goofy trauma time in the world of the gays, like,
Goofy Trauma Time in the World of the Gays is a great band name.
I really, I'm gonna get myself fixated on anything I can possibly pluck out of it and try to make meaningful, right?
Right.
I will come up with 1,000 micro narratives about power and sexuality and agency.
I can't wait to pick your mind about this later. So yeah, I remember watching the first couple episodes of the show, and it didn't really resonate with me. The first episode did. I loved the first episode. I really like the weird shit that happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's also, interestingly enough, as far as I can tell, the only storyboard by let me check. Yeah, it's the only time that the storyboard was done by Ikuhara.
Ah.
So all the other storyboards jumped between Shingo Kaneko, Kazushi Takenouchi, Taro Takashi, Hiroshi Nishikori, Jun Matsumoto, Maru Hosoda. Like, the storyboards for almost all of these shows jumped between, like 8 to 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
And Ikuhara was the only one that did 1. And it's pretty dope how, I think what's interesting about this show is that there was a lot of people involved in this.
Mm-hmm.
And they jumped between being episode director, like Toru Takashi was the episode director of episode 1, and they later went and wrote other episodes.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty interesting. And I think that there is probably, if I took the time to make connections, I could probably be like, oh yeah, Nanami's Egg was storyboarded by the same guy that did Cow. Cow. It was! I was right!
Hey, come on, we got Funny Guy. Funny Guy is gonna be working on these episodes. Hey, shake hands with Funny Guy.
That's Hiroshi. The person who's in charge of that is Hiroshi Nishikori.
Okay, we need to take a detour really quickly. What else have they been up to?
I cannot say because Firefox does not have an automatic translator, so I have to use the cursed Google Chrome.
I see.
To go to the Japanese Wikipedia and translate it. Azumanga Daioh. Certain magical index.
Wow. Okay, two very different things. But Azumanga Daioh makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that makes sense too. Yeah. He was the director of almost all of Azumanga Daioh, it looks like.
Cool. Good for him.
Nanan Biori.
Hey, there's
guess what?
Animals in that show. What?
Detective Opera Milky Holmes.
Oh, Milky Holmes.
Milky Holmes finds
it's just haunting us. Lately.
It finds its way back into everything we talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I think that's one of the things that makes Revolutionary Girl Utena kind of like a roller coaster of me enjoying it and me not enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the storyboards and writers and directors are so different that you get so caught up in what you're watching, and then the next episode can be completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one of my favorite episodes is when they go to the party.
Mm-hmm.
When Naname invites them to the party. That episode's good. It's simple. It's not particularly insightful in terms of, like, being super out there, but it's fun.
Mm-hmm. Is it the one where they gift Anthe the dress that's, like, that dissolves with water, and so, like, they try to mess with her, and then Utena pulls a queen move and redresses her up, and they just dance it out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that if you are watching this show, you can understand that you might not like every episode, and it's still going to become a pretty solid show as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. There are 39 episodes, and they, oscillate greatly in their tone and in their, even their goals as episodes, right? And considering that there's plenty of the show that is repetitive, in the sense that, like, they have the same structure of someone challenges someone to a duel, and then that happens, and then kind of repeat that in different contexts. Having that, having things shift so frequently at least helps bring some surprises, every now and then. So.
Oh, also the recap episodes have unique things to learn about, so you have to watch those too.
Yes,
which is
for some might
fucking
be really
stupid.
cool, and for others, exactly, it might be
fucking pissed me off.
torturous.
We watched an entire episode of the Shadow Play Girls doing a radio show, and well, this is stupid. It's just a recap. And Brantley was like, no, hold on. I'm pretty sure there's something important. And at like the very end, it's important. And you're like, God, okay.
Yeah, this show also is not like structurally super consistent either. Like for the most part, you can split it down into 3 seasons. But
they actually have 4 sagas.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't end up being a usual like 13 episodes and then, hey, 39 divides by 3 to make 13. It actually doesn't fully work like that. Which I dig. They're like, okay, we're going to do this as long as we need to and then we'll move on. Which still might be a little too lengthy for some people, but in any case, like, they could have dragged it out longer from what I could foresee, so.
Yeah, especially if they did a whole episode on Namine getting a fucking Tamagotchi.
Namine from Kingdom Hearts.
Yes.
Kingdom Hearts also has a lot of themes about memory loss and,
Now, are you making fun of me, or is this Utena?
No, I'm just kind of theory crafting.
We're not gonna theory craft Kingdom Hearts. We do not have the time for that shit.
Okay. Hey, you know what? Back when we were doing research for Danganronpa, we found out that Kazutaka Kodaka references Utena as like an inspiration, because he talks about like how he wanted to make something that was like structurally undefined or like sort of structurally like anarchist. It's like, it's kind of broken up in interesting ways and it's not very typical. We got to experience that finally, you and I together.
Yeah, and I hate it.
Okay. Well, I think this segues nicely. How about we talk about some of the stuff that's like perhaps like Utena's trademarks as a piece of media. Stuff that like you either find in other pieces of media now, or things that just stick out as being like the calling cards of the show and the movie.
So I think going back to like some of the inspiration, watching Utena, there's so much things that happen. You're like, oh, I see where this was influential. Like in Revu Starlight and Utena, I mean, there was a time where we were going to compare the two. I don't think you could. Mm-hmm. I think they're two entirely different shows. But Revu Starlight took a lot from Utena in term for like theming and like ideas. It's not the same necessarily, but if you told me that they watched Utena and decided to make this, I wouldn't be shocked. Mm-hmm. I know Steven Universe has a lot of Utena themology in it and a lot of references to it. Mm-hmm. One of the things that Utena, I realize that Utena does is sort of that weird, wispy world that kind of makes you feel like you're in a fever dream, and you don't know what's real and what's not. Mm-hmm. I feel like shows like Madoka play into that a lot nowadays, but I can definitely see that Utena was probably one of the more influential versions of that kind of storytelling. Mm-hmm. And I do like it. But it also kind of reminds me of Wonder Egg Priority, which it's like, hey, it's wispy and you don't really know what's going on, and you never will. Think about it. And you kind of wondered to yourself, did they actually have an idea, or was it half finished and they left it open?
Yeah.
And that's both interesting and hella frustrating.
Totally. Yeah. I do want to come back around to like visual motifs as a topic, but first, because we're talking about Wonder Egg, something else it shares with that, this show's dark.
Oh God, this show does this thing where, not only is it dark, but it's dark in the right places and lighthearted in the right places. Sometimes they blend too much together and some things get skipped over, which I'm not a big fan of, but it's also 39 episodes, so I'm not going to fault them for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As a heads up, if you want to watch this, there's plenty of potentially triggering content in the show. In the description of this video, I'm going to link an extremely helpful guide that's currently being hosted by Tumblr user vilecrocodile. It's a list, basically, not even a list, but it's a guide put together by some people who went through the show and sort of break down as best as they can out of context things that happen that could be upsetting. Sometimes it's as granular as swords pointed at the throat. I think it's really cool to see that exists, because as people with the guide mention, it's a fantastic show to cover all these dark topics. But the fact is, it's there. So it's your way to arm yourself and hopefully still get a way to experience Utena in some format. I think that Utena is one of the best examples of having dark content without while restraining itself from exposing you too much to the substance of that dark content. So some seriously messed up stuff happens in the show. Everything from date rape to suicide, but very frequently, almost consistently, they're able to put these things obscured out of framing, or they're hinted with the cinematography or visual language of scene settings, so that you don't have to get that up in your face.
Right.
Goblin Slayer, this is not. So if you're interested in that, then I would say this is also a good show to look at and see the contrast, of how that can be done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it there's a lot of care into the cinematography for this, and it's both appreciated and makes it an interesting watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's not just there to put these things out of the way. There's a lot of times where it's there to make the scenes more interesting or make them more evocative without making them terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It is a testament to how much care you can put into a show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good, and it's good for that.
Yeah.
A lot of shows that want to do dark subject matter should really take a look at Utena.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think at the very least it's a good exercise in creativity. The way I want to put it is that it doesn't pull its punch, but it doesn't aim the punch at your vitals, right? You're gonna see, for example, there is partial nudity in the show, but it never feels titillating. It doesn't feel like you're supposed to be attracted to it. Most of the time, it feels alarming instead. And even for people who aren't sensitive to a lot of different traumatic triggers and things like that, I'll bet there's still something in here that might emotionally tweak you a bit. Episode 33 is instant waterworks for me. There's a scene which Utena is either mid or post coitus with Akio, who is an adult character who's been manipulating her into a sexual relationship, and it's all framed off screen such that you only see Utena from shoulders up, and she's just trying to talk about other things to herself to distract herself, as if I really should remember to do this tomorrow. I can't forget to do this, and her memory's kind of fading, and she's lost for words, and I just choke up. Like, it's a hard watch, like, as much as I'm downplaying it a little bit. So
yeah, we watched that with a friend at the time, and he just said, "Oh, fuck."
Yeah.
When he realized, because it's confusing, but on purpose.
Yeah, it's doing its job, which is to, be a very, I don't know if nuance is the right word for it, but it's a careful exposure to some really dramatic stuff. Yeah. You mentioned the world design and stuff as being, like, interesting to you. Are there other visual motifs that really kind of stick with you?
I can't lie. The cars don't get my engine going. But they're there. I like the car. I just don't get the obsession with cars plural.
When they're, like, stacking them, like, as like
a
house of cards, yeah.
Yeah, or when characters turn into cars. They fucking Turbo Teen this shit.
Which happens a non-zero number of times.
Utena is derivative of Turbo Teen, and that is something that you have to take to your grave knowing, is that Ikuhara watched Turbo Teen, and he thought, what if I can make this gay? And that is how Utena was born.
The absolute destiny apocalypse. Yeah. Anything else in particular?
I love the duels. I still think that Reivu Starlight has the better dueling idea with the capes. But God, I love swords. I love swords used for metaphors for talking. I love swords used for metaphors for stabbing. Swords are the best thing ever. You put a sword in a show for no reason other than to have people fight each other, and you make it a metaphor for something. I fucking dig that. And the fact that everyone has a different kind of sword is always a big kind of thing for me. So, like, green-haired bitch, I will never remember his name. Sayonji has, like, the kendo sword, right? That's sort of his very formal traditionalist view, right? And so he is it's a Japanese medium, and he is the most Japanese swordsman. He uses a martial art that came out of Japan with a Japanese sword, and then he also he's a traditionalist, right? And then you have Juri, who is a fencer. So she has this sort of elegant but very aggressive fighting style that also masks who you are, right? Because you wear your entire fencing gear. And so you can draw parallels to that. I think Mickey's also a fencer, right? Yeah,
he also, like, participates in the club.
But that's kind of his shtick too, right? He's derivative of Juri. And his whole entire purpose is trying to separate himself from not only Juri, but his twin. So how does he do that? Well, he still fences, but he's not Juri, and that's kind of where you pull from this. And, like, right now, I'm pulling this out of my ass. None of this could mean anything. But that's kind of what Utena's good at.
Yeah.
I love sword motifs. Fucking gets me every time.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to Infinite Spiral Staircase.
Infinite Spiral Staircase is also a good band name. But you look at I have to burp, and it's okay. Right there. Oh, that was disgusting. Infinite Spiral Staircase is a good motif. You see it in this one. You see it in Mega Man X7. Not X7, X3?
I mean, throw a dart. You'll probably hit a Mega Man X game that has a spiral staircase in it, because X1 had one, so...
Kingdom Hearts?
I think X1 has one.
They're good. Spiral Staircases are good.
Whatever. Anyways, yeah, Spiral Staircase is good.
The song makes no sense. When you listen to the song, you're like, oh, this is hype, this is great. And you look at the lyrics, it's like human birth, human death, birth certificates, death certificates, baptism, cremation. And you're like, none of this doesn't mean anything.
Can I tell you my favorite lyrics?
Yes.
Allegory,
please.
allegorier, allegoriist. From the English translation.
Oh, it's so stupid.
Yeah. Like, all the same, I'm gonna look at that and question, is there, like, symbolism here? Are they trying something? What are they going for? They've got me hooked. You know, and honestly, like, if people were to take the motifs out of Utena, like roses and, you know, like the thin blades for dueling and, like the decorative vignettes and borders that they'll do when someone is looking at someone else fondly, like, I'd say take it. Go, run with it. We're not getting any more Utena content anytime soon, and I'm personally kind of happy about that. I like that Utena is evergreen for now, and I'm not of the opinion that we need to see it again, you know, or that we need to change it or anything like that. So I'd say everybody else who wants a piece, go for it. Like, you know, I love seeing this stuff, and I'd like to see more of it.
More swords. They need to remake Utena and add more swords.
Yes.
Even though there is a literal tornado of swords at the end, and I just remembered that is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
See? And there it is. There's the connection back to words.
Uh-huh.
Because Anthe was the figure of verbal abuse when she was a witch. That's a thing that happens. Why is she a witch? What the fuck does that mean? I haven't talked about Utena at all with Brantley, besides some weird theories about shit.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of this is just like coming out. I'm like, yeah, words, that makes sense. And then tornado sword, and then I remembered that Anthe was a witch.
Yeah,
and that's fucking whack.
Uh-huh.
And it's talked about for like 6 seconds, and no one's like, "What? She's a witch?" They're like, yeah,
uh-huh,
that makes sense.
It's like picking up a fishing net from one of the strands, and everything else comes up with it, right? It's like you drudge up all these extra attached references and things. You're like, oh my god, that was in this show. Yeah. And I'm convinced that this stuff is intentional, and that's why I love to pry through it. It's like, oh, each duelist wears that, like, a rose bloom, which is a very temporary form of life. You know, you cut the rose off of the stem, and how long is it going to last? I don't know. It's probably going to die soon. But they wear that as they battle for the ability to make miracles happen. Essentially to achieve eternity. And so, wow, there's a cool contrast there. And what does it mean? Maybe it's that eternity doesn't exist. Blah blah blah. Yeah,
they can make miracles.
Yeah.
Even if the devil of time, okay.
Okay, God, are you? Now let's level here for a moment. Did you just
yes.
quote the lyrics of Invincible Heart Arrow?
I did.
Okay, that's what you can have that, because we're not going to review the Somnium Files on this podcast.
I will by myself.
Okay, feel free.
So what are some of your what are some theories that you want to talk about regarding the movie and show? Because I feel like there's not much. We can't recap this show.
Yeah,
we can't recap this show.
I'm not going to.
And I feel like there's no reason to.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of your whack theories about this show?
My whack theory is that literally every small detail is designed for me to think about until I die. And that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, hey, look, it's Mickey and Juri and Nanami, and they're talking about stuff in their student council meeting, and randomly up on the roof with them there's a train crossing barrier, and then an invisible non-existent train starts rushing past them, and the wind is blowing heavily, and they can hardly hear each other over the noise, as if a train is literally there. And I'm like, oh, that's something. That's something.
Yeah.
I don't fucking know what that is. Okay, in Adolescence, in the movie, Utena's like talking about the stars and lamenting that she can't see them with Toga anymore. And then Anthe cuts the power grid so that she can see all the stars in the sky, and doing that causes the water line to flood the rose garden, and it all overflows, and it sends all the roses over the edge because her love can't be contained.
Yeah.
And then multiply this by like literally every frame of the show. That's my problem. I have too many theories about the little itty bitty things, and so those are some examples. You can imagine what I come up with for the rest. That's all I'm going to give. Otherwise, we'd be here forever. Okay. Hey, how would you like to talk about the characters?
Let's talk about the characters.
Okay, so Utena first, and then we'll kind of go from there. How do you feel about Utena as a character? Because we really haven't talked too much about that.
Utena takes like 20 episodes to become a character.
Yeah, really.
She exists as a plot device up until she isn't, and it's really quick and sudden. And you kind of realize that she's not a character right before they start giving her characterization.
Mm-hmm.
They throw a lot of focus into the student body as the main characters. It's interesting because Utena loses one duel throughout the entire show.
Yeah.
And then she wins again.
Uh-huh.
And so Utena always exists as sort of this boss character, the final boss for the student council.
Mm-hmm.
And then it suddenly becomes... she starts to actually develop. So we focus on the student council trying to come to terms with how do we defeat Utena Tenjo? How do we make her our how do we win so we can have the Rose Bride? And then it slowly becomes, maybe Utena deserves to have the Rose Bride. Maybe Utena is the one to bring the world revolution. Maybe Utena is the one that we need to focus on. And right when that starts to happen, the Black Rose arc starts to fall. But once again, this is still not Utena's arc, because now we're talking about the other people, the side characters, those that aren't in the student council, and Utena. And now it becomes Utena versus the world. But the world is still the main character.
Yeah, like she's at that point, she's like almost peak pragmatism, where like she every time a new opponent has appeared, they'll reference what their struggles are through the shadow play of the drama club. They'll talk about it, and then Utena will usually give like a quippy one-liner as to why whatever they're fretting about is useless to be concerned with. And so like, yeah, for a long time she is the catalyst that everyone else is growing off of, and Utena herself is pretty rock steady, which is interesting to me.
Yeah, like even in some of the episodes where they're not what's the word I'm looking for? Like, that aren't, like, plot relevant. It will be like, oh, this is an episode with Mickey, and he accidentally runs into Utena. And Utena's in it for, like, 5 minutes. So it's fun to have this character who isn't out front, who isn't doing who is the main catalyst, but isn't the main character. And then as she becomes the main character, she becomes more likable and more grounded. And she kind of goes away from being this mythological character to actually having, like, a real human connection.
Yeah. I think, like, when I first watched this show, I wasn't super big on Utena's character, because I was still very much in, like a Western storytelling mindset of, like, hey, how come Utena doesn't have an arc? That seems odd that she's not growing. That's not very realistic and you know. But, having seen a bazillion stories that work like that, it's cool having Utena not be that. I now dig it a lot. I also like that Utena's not like she's not a cardboard cutout of the image of feminism. Like, she's a little she's different than that. Like, she's a bisexual, gender non-conforming person, and that informs her views. So, like, she, is a character that, in that right, as living as this person, upholds feminism, but it's not in this kind of, like, typical safe girl bossy kind of way. For example, she's not a misandrist, despite the fact that there's loads of characters who are exerting toxic masculinity and, patriarchal power structures on people. Like, she has a whole spectrum of relationships through the student council and through side characters that will help you see that she judges people based on their actions and not just who they are. And so, I appreciate that a lot too.
Do you think that Nanami utilized her girl boss to kill the cat?
that did happen. Oof, yeah, that's one of the first parts of the series where you're just like, oh fuck, that's dark. Yeah. Another note on Utena. I fear that for some folks, seeing how she fluctuates between sort of wanting to be the prince and wanting to be the princess, that might turn some people off. Because it's like, no, Utena, don't do the feminine thing because you need to be the strong one. You need to oppose femininity. I'm glad that she does both. Yeah. And I think that's maybe a trend on our podcast, is finding characters that
do both.
Yeah, exactly. She's someone who, does desire power, but also wants to be cared for. And for her, that projects itself into masculinity and femininity. She wants both. She wants security and she wants power. But what's important about how she behaves with those things is that it's, all about whether it's coming from inside her or it's coming from outside from someone else.
Right.
If someone tells her, like, hey, you should stop wearing that boy's uniform, even if she's in sort of her more, girly modality, she's not going to take that because it's someone trying to tell her how to live her life. I think that's what's really important about Utena. She works as a flexible masculine and feminine character because it's the fulcrum of this is her agency as a person, which is staunchly up against the power structures that the whole, like, Rose Bride duels and everything are centered around. So, I think that's really good to have. It's really important. Also, last note on Utena. In the final episode, the part where she punches the ground to stand up, sick. I love it.
It's pretty dope. My favorite girl boss moment of Utena is at the end where Akio's like, Utena failed. Guess we're gonna start the Rose duels again. And Andy's like, oh, you. And then leaves.
Yeah.
I was like, hell yeah, fuck that noise.
She says the rawest shit, which is something along the lines of just you stake in your coffin then.
She says, you can stay here and pretend to be a prince. I'm gonna go find Utena.
Yeah.
And he's like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, Auntie, come back, you're the Rose Bride. And she's like, okay.
Mm-hmm. And this is all while, to everybody else, Utena is fading from memory as if she didn't exist.
Yeah, it's pretty damn good.
Uh-huh.
It kicks ass.
Yeah, she's like, hey, my girlfriend made a wish to save me from the swords of hatred. I'm gonna go find her and hang out. See ya.
Which is where I believe the whole the movie comes in.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the movie is a direct sequel. It just takes place in a weird in between world.
Yeah, me too. Okay.
Um,
Let's take a short turn in for Wakaba.
I love Wakaba. She is the only magical girlfriend that makes it to the end as a character, and then I'm like, hell yeah, get it, Wakaba. She's good. There's not much to say about her. She doesn't do much. She fights Utena like once.
Mhm.
But other than that, not much happens.
Yeah, there's a hype fight. There's a lot of really emotionally charged imagery in that fight. There's the part where she pulls Utena up by her hair. That's like oof. There's a part where they kind of like butt heads at each other, where they go like head to shoulder, and it's like, you know, it's a shoulder tackle and also a hug, and that's, you know, really intense and intimate all at the same time. The final blow they have, where they go into like a backwards drop, holding hands to keep each other up, as Wakaba has lost the duel. It's like representative of Utena being her last stitch to like the popular world, and it's also really, really cool as a silhouette.
Yeah, this show has good silhouettes.
Yeah. Time for Anthe.
She's such a weirdo.
Operation Anthe is a big weirdo who keeps his snail in her pencil box.
I like that Anthe's weird.
Mm-hmm.
I like that episode's really good at showing that Anthe's weird and she owns it.
Yeah.
I wish we got more weird Anthe. Not weird Anthe like, hey, it's Anthe who is also kind of who's a semi-emotionalist. I like weird Anthe that keeps snails in her pencil case and a mongoose in her sock drawer.
Her desk drawer. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I like that Anthe. We don't get to see a lot of it because she's too busy being abused,
Mm-hmm.
and also a witch. So it kind of sucks that we don't get to see that more often, even in like a silly way.
Mm-hmm.
I wish we did.
Yeah. She's a tricky character, I think.
Yeah, I can't believe that it would be easy
Mm-hmm.
to write.
Yeah. She has a similar rough patch with Utena, where she doesn't develop for a very long time. And there are like little glances of it. Like you mentioned, there's the parts where she kind of geeks out. You know, and you get the idiosyncrasies of her character. But again, she's not going to have an arc until the very end. That's kind of the whole point. So it's, you know, thereby, it can feel like she kind of gets shorted on things. You know, she's incredibly effective for the meaning of the plot, but as a character, she has a limited amount of space in which she gets to exist as a character, and that's a bummer.
Yeah, it's kind of why movie Anthe has a little bit more agency.
Yes, a lot more.
Yeah,
she's dynamite in the movie.
And I like that they were able to explore that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think your mileage will vary with Anthe 2, based on...
Your mileage won't vary with Utena, who is a car in this movie.
What do you... Do you think Utena gets good miles to the gallon?
No, she's super unaerodynamic as a car. She looks like a fucking speed racer vehicle.
Yeah, but back to Anthe. You know, like, it's tough. Writing
her as her character is good, but I can't imagine being able to do anything else with her.
Yeah. To talk about at least like what something I definitely feel strongly about, her role as the witch, you know, as they call her in the story, really kind of.
I wish we got to see more of that too.
Yeah. They really don't talk much about it thoroughly, and I don't think they need to. But also, I don't care that much about it, you know, like, perhaps it's a good thing. Like, I feel like if they overdid it and explained it too much, then I would wish it wasn't there. But they almost didn't have to have that in the first place at all. You know, I wish it was almost left totally vague, totally fantastical as to how she operates within this, you know, magical world that's like deeply rooted away from most of the show. Yeah, like, honestly, I'm a lot more interested in Anthe as, you know, what she means to the other characters, you know, what she means to Akio and his, you know, possessive nature, you know, what she means in Adolescence of Utena when she has this uncapped playfulness and like an overt sexual drive that you're getting to watch play out, which is, you know, totally adverse from the TV series. You know, like, that's what I really appreciate out of her character. Like, I could talk about all the individual cases in which, like, hey, look, Anthe was good for the plot here because she was a device in this way. You know, but ultimately, you know, that's going to come down to your interpretation at some point, whether or not she's being used effectively without removing too much of who she is. Yeah, but know that I love Anthe. You know, I love that Anthe has these, like, sapphic break out of the egg moments where, with Utena, you know, where, the two of them stumble their way into a relationship, that they go from, yeah, there's the whole Rose Bride power structure thing going on, but the two of them slip into something that's far more casual and, you know, actually becomes consummate by the end. You know, there's just something really endearing about the two of them, you know, going to bed and holding hands, you know, and it's not a big deal to them. It's not like, oh, we're holding hands for the first time, doki doki, you know, there's none of that. It's just something natural for the two of them. For, you know, Anthe as possibly a lesbian or maybe bisexual, for Utena, you know, being bisexual, that gets to awaken in a very natural way, which is cool to see.
Yeah.
One more thing I do want to bring up, because I feel like it wouldn't be fair to not bring it up entirely. But I still,
the green-haired bitch.
What?
Oh, never mind.
No, we'll get to green-haired bitch, Grant. I just want to say that, like, I do feel like Anthe and Akio's ethnicity has a place in the story, but I don't think I should be one to talk about it, really. Like, I don't think beyond, like, the two of them being sort of othered, like capital O othered by the rest of the cast, and being treated as, you know, people who are perhaps, like, more mysterious or exotic in nature, I can't really commentate on that further, you know. It's not apparent exactly where in the world they're from, although we have, like, you know, hints and things, and, like, they, you know, they have Japanese names, so I don't know what the intent is behind their character designs. But I bet there's someone else out there who has a really good analysis on it. So maybe I'll go searching for that, and maybe you should too, if you're interested. Okay.
Yeah.
Next up, Sayonji. Green-haired bitch.
He's the fucking worst. I don't even have anything to say about it. He sucks ass, right? Like, all right, he comes in, slaps Anthe, and, like, this bitch is like, I am the current owner of the Rose Bride. And you're like, oh shit, is this guy gonna have any like relevance in the later story? No. Maybe a little bit. There's a time where he stands on top of a motorcycle and T-poses, and Toga's like, hey, don't do that, that's dangerous. Despite the fact that Toga has been T-posing on top of a car for, like, 6 episodes. But that's, like, the best thing he does. He does turn into Choo-Choo for a little bit.
Yeah. Saionji is the jobber of the series. Like, he's meant to be the one to show just how powerful Utena is.
He is also the only he is the only straight man in the show, and he is very, very uncomfortable with it. He's the least confident in his sexuality.
Yeah. He's so hateable in a good way.
He sucks.
And I think he's not totally irredeemable, but it feels like it's about 99%.
Yeah.
He's egotistical and he's abusive. He cannot get over himself. But if he could...
He has green hair.
Yeah, man, fuck him for that. Damn. Jeez, go for his mother, why don't you? But yeah, like, he has, like, a 99-to-1 douche to decency ratio. And that's perfect. We need a character in the show who is just the worst. You don't have to think about it.
To put it in perspective, I have tried very hard to make really hateable characters in D&D for my players so that they don't feel bad killing them, and I have yet to create a character as bad as hateable as Saionji.
Yeah. One thing I can grant, it's interesting that he tries to break into, like, the end of the world, to break into the castle that's being projected up in the sky. Considering that at that point things were getting into a pretty easygoing rhythm of, like, hey, it's the student council member, duel them. Hey, it's a student council member, duel them, and rinse and repeat. Having him cut that off by coming back out of nowhere and trying to break the rules, that's something. But again, like, yeah, he's far unlike, say, like, Miki in Jury. Speaking of which, Miki.
I like Miki. He loves Anthe, and that's it. Like, he has a lot more to his character, but I like that he's, like, the opposite of Saionji. He's just like, I am a good person, and I want Anthe to be my bride, but I want her to be my bride if she chooses, and also my sister scares me.
Yeah, it's good to point out, Mickey really doesn't want anything to do with the duels at first.
No. He and even when he does want to do with the duels, it's very short. And
he's just like, well, that was a
like,
waste of time. Hits his little timer and done, moves on.
Yeah, I'm gonna go play the piano again. See you later, squares.
Yeah. Whereas Saionji is like, his natural tendency is like, well, of course I'm gonna try to win her. Miki is like, why would I want to win her? But all the same, he does try to do it, and I think that's good too. I think he's one of my, like, favorite depictions of, like, nice guys finish last kind of storytelling, where, like, he's the nice guy. He's smart. He's, boyishly attractive. He's level-headed and talented and all these things. But even then, he still falls to temptation to sort of pursue his entitlement, right? It's like, well, maybe I should try to win her because then I could give her a happy life. Maybe her life shouldn't be this way with Utena, or etc., etc. Like, I think it's important that happens. I think the story would be worse if Mickey didn't break every once in a while. Here's the thing. I think that let's say that that Mickey would get tempted by the Duels of the Rose Bride, and then he would get spurned and then leave. Like, we just remove him from the story. He says, curse you, Utena and Anthe, I hate you, I'll never love again, whatever. And he leaves. Then I feel like that doesn't give the lesson that Mickey can still be happy without taking someone else's agency from them. Even if he thinks he can get everything he ever wanted, he realizes it's far better to share what he can. And then, therefore, if you like Mickey, then try to be like him, which is to learn from your mistakes and let people live their lives.
Yeah, he's pretty damn good. I like him a lot.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Another quick sidebar. Kozue, his twin sister.
Fuck. There's too much to unpack for Kozue. It is either, once again, this comes into the whole thing. Is this character attracted to her brother because it's a weird fetishistic thing they want to put in the show, or does it have deeper meaning behind it? And you shrug because you're not gonna figure it out.
Yeah, that's right on the money. Unless
I don't like her.
Yeah.
I don't think she has any relevance to the plot that makes any. She doesn't make Mickey better. She doesn't make Utena better. She doesn't make anyone better. She doesn't make the story better. She just sucks.
Mm-hmm.
She sucks, and I don't like hating her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Sayoji is my. I enjoy seeing him get his ass kicked.
Yeah.
She sucks.
Yeah, Kozue is not my favorite. Like you said, you could couch her attraction to Mickey as like, oh, it's a gap that she's trying to fill because of her parental detachment, or you could just oh, well, it's a twincest thing, maybe that happens, but at the very least, it's problematized. I don't think that there's any sting in the story that wants you to sympathize with her too hard, especially not with how she treats Mickey. Yeah, the bad part is it's terribly uncomfortable. and like, as you mentioned, it really doesn't uplift much at all by the end. It's just kind of a return back to a net zero. So yeah, we can move on from her. Next up, Nanami.
Nanami is like Sayoji. She's kind of interesting because in the TV show she exists to kind of give the audience someone to relate to. For the first couple episodes, she's confused. She doesn't know what's going on. There's a part where she's sitting in the weird ass bed that Utena and Anthe sleep in, and they're face to face. And she sits up and she goes, "You guys are weird for sleeping like this." And you're like, "Yeah, that is weird, isn't it?" But then she also has an episode where she turns into a cow and kills a cat, and also in love with her brother.
Those are two different episodes.
They are two different episodes. There's a period allegory with her laying an egg. And that's a thing that happens. So that happens. She's interesting. She's funny.
Happens.
Well, she's funny,
yeah.
Right? Like the episode where she's like, "Operation Anthe's a big weirdo," is one of my favorite episodes of the series because I get to watch Nanami try so hard and fail miserably.
Yeah.
But she also killed a cat and loves her brother in a almost romantic way.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't vibe with that at all.
Uh-huh.
And maybe you should focus a little bit more on the whole incestual thing you guys got going on there. No? We're not going to talk about it? Okay.
Yeah, she basically doubles down. And that's not good.
Yeah, it sucks ass.
She does not learn her lessons, which is similar to Sayonji, but it's rough. I don't think we need to go into Mitsuru, but that's another dimension of her character, which I think.
Oh, I forgot about Mitsuru.
Yeah,
he sucks too.
Yeah,
he's not problematic. He just is a 10-year-old.
Yeah,
I don't want him in my anime.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate.
He tries and kills Naname. Yeah, he puts her in positions to where she can die so that he can save her, which is fucked.
Yeah. Again, problematized, but at what cost?
Yeah.
It's a child trying to live out the hero's fantasy. Maybe trying to be the prince isn't such a great thing if you only identify in that. But oh wow, this is dramatic. And then your best bet is to discontinue that from the reality of the show. You say, well, maybe there's a reality in which this isn't that dramatic. Or you say, well, it's fiction, so it's exaggerating it to make its point. Depends on whether or not you're comfortable with it enough to even give it the thought. Yeah, but boy, Nanami is entertaining. Once again, we here at Familiar Territory tend to have a good time with shit starter characters. Nanami's right in there.
Oh yeah,
just causing problems. But yeah, that's Nanami. Jury.
I love Jury. Fucking love her.
Mm-hmm.
She is complex, and I love her story arc. She doesn't kill a cat.
Yeah.
She is the best fencer on the fencing team, and I dig that. She also tries to kill. She duels Toga, right, to get her gal pal. Sort of, or no, or is it Seoji?
Are you thinking of blue-haired guy?
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Ruka.
Yeah, she duels Ruka because Ruka's like, your girlfriend is mine, and she's like, I will beat your ass, and she loses, and it's tragic, but good. I love Jury. There's not much to say about her though. I feel like she comes in, she steals your heart, and then her character arc is over.
Mm-hmm. She has a few spikes throughout the story, and all of them are good. I think she is, a peak character in this narrative. And by that I mean, oh god, she's got a rough fucking break.
She is tragic, but she's one of the few characters that her tragedy doesn't come from her own doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of characters, their tragedy comes from their inability to work within their shitty circumstances, which is fair, which is a good tragedy in itself. But Jury is one of those where it's like, haha, you tried your best and you still fucked up, which makes it worse.
Yeah. It's dire for her. Basically every one of her episodes just breaks my heart. Those are the ones that tonally, totally subside any comedic overtones, and they're almost totally serious, and it really works to break the pace. I have a lot to say about Jury, so I'm going to try to condense it and move fast. So aside from in Adolescence, Jury is coded as a full-on lesbian, uninterested in men. I think it's interesting how her relationship with her own sexual identity is framed up against Utena early on, where she kind of gets angry with Utena about her whole prince getup, and basically tells her, hey, get rid of that rose crest, don't participate in the duels, and I feel like it's because Jury's detecting that she's met someone who's like her for the first time, and yet here she is, taking the role of a man, where, she feels all alone being a woman searching for a woman. Maybe I'm looking too far into it, but like when she's fighting Utena, she mockingly calls her prince. Like I think that's interesting. It's dicey. It's rough. As for her character like arc, she's locked into a love triangle, sort of, with Shiori and Ruka. And Shiori is her own baggage here, but to try not to get too distracted, her character fixture is on her closeted love for Shiori, which is literally inside of a locket, right? It's simple and it's effective and it hurts me. I'm just gonna go through like a lightning round of bits and pieces of things that I like about Juri and her episodes. When Ruka advances on her and she physically fights back on him, that feels really real. I wouldn't doubt if that was pulled from someone's actual like anecdotes or experiences. The lip bite in particular, it's something that you can miss if you're not paying attention because it's like a very small detail. You could almost consider it an animation error, but you could see a little bit of blood on Ruka's lip after he gets pushed away. And like fuck, man. It's hard to watch and I feel it and it's a lot. She's also like the only duelist who throws a match.
Yeah.
Like Miki, she doesn't really want to participate in the duels, but she actually, is the one who follows through. When she's in her duel and gets her locket knocked away, instinctively she makes a run for it instead of winning the duel right then and there and getting everything she wanted. Because to her that miracle might not be real, but what is real is that locket and everything she's pent up inside of it. Realizing that her duel for Anthe was just this protracted attempt to seize Shiori, which is a desire that's shattered on the ground and visible to everybody. She essentially right then and there has her character resolution. She takes the rose and just rips it off. She rips out her heart ssentially and throws it on the ground and steels herself to move on.
Yeah, absolutely.
God. Then they have in that episode they have the visual of the 3 chairs that she and Shiori and Ruka would sit in ideally, and then the episode ends with like showing the chair that she normally sits in during that episode removed. It's just like, oh, it means things. And I, as much as I wish Juri had a happier ending, like a clear-cut happier ending, I can appreciate that, her character resolution is to start taking care of herself and to not fall for the power grab that so many other characters in the series are doing, Also, on the topic of like the fighting styles Grant brought up before, there are some parallels in how she and Ruka duel, which is really neat. Particularly like sidestepping and then shoving Utena over, is something that they both do, and that's a neat detail. Just to see how Juri has been modeled in some way by Ruka, but also rejects him and and all that. So yeah, she's a highly consistent, well-structured character. Probably my favorite.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Okay. Do we want to talk about Shiori?
We can.
She's kind of like Kozue, where like she's someone who's acting out of malice pretty specifically. Her whole ordeal is to make Juri's life hell for indirectly being responsible for the death of the person she loved, and that's complex and traumatic. What do you feel about her?
I like her. I think she's not malice in a way that makes her seem evil.
Yeah.
She's malice in a way that makes her seem sad.
Yeah. She's kind of Kozue done right. Almost.
Yeah, and her voice actress is really good.
In the dub, yeah.
Yeah.
Solid stuff. At the end, after she's been spurned by Ruka, and there's like subtext that maybe the fencing foil she's been polishing all that time was Juri's, you could assume that maybe like she realizes she has some romantic interest in Juri, but they don't follow through on that. They let it hang. I'm perfectly okay with them just even repairing some ground on their friendship. I'm okay with that. I totally forgot to mention this. In one of like the video game adaptations of Utena, which I think maybe was a visual novel. I didn't look into this very far, but I did see that Juri is a pro arcade gamer.
Hell yeah. I mean, she's a pro bowler, too.
Yeah. She's a fashion model on top of that. Like, she's fucking doing everything.
She is a woman of many talents.
Yeah. That was a very Sailor Moon throwback looking bit. Like the image I saw where she's sitting at like an arcade cabinet reminds me so much of Sailor Moon when they're sitting in the arcade and chilling and punching buttons. Okay. Toga.
I love Toga. I hated him at first, but he is Mr. Pretty Boy who has a undeniable attraction to men, but he doesn't know how to deal with it. He is.
What was that Reddit comment we saw?
It was in the egg episode where he talked about how it was.
It's like men and women are made for each other, and that's how it has to be, or something.
Yeah, and it's like the fact that Toga is a hypocritical gay homophobe is totally on point, or bisexual homophobe or something like that.
Whoever made that comment out there, good on you. We agree. We found it very funny.
It was very good. I like that Toga is in the movie is a lot more like good.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's who he is as a person.
Yeah.
But I don't think he was. It's like in the right situation, he would have been a very good person.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't get to be that. Oh, it's Toga being Toga being homophobic is both hypocritical and totally not surprising.
Yeah. What was the username?
Sandor at the zoo.
Cool.
It was during the 2020 rewatch of Utena. So good on you. But it's nice to see a character who wants to be good and just can't, because every time he tries it, he fucks up, and he doesn't know. He doesn't know what that really means as a person. I would also like to point out that Sander at the Zoo is moderator of the subreddit Things Nanavi Did Wrong. and if you go onto that subreddit, there is nothing, there doesn't seem to be anything here, is what comes up. Because
as in Nanami did nothing wrong.
Yes.
Oh my, she killed the cat, bro. What are you doing? No. Oh, the lid came open when it went over the falls. Man.
I'm gonna. Oh. I am gonna message this person and say she did kill a cat.
Just how about thoughts on the cat?
So I like Toga. He's complex, and I dig that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, watching the movie is and knowing, like, having read on Wikipedia today that Chiho Saito really wanted in Adolescence of Utena to essentially give Toga's character a second chance, and like the scene in which they're in the elevator and the water fills up and he kind of floats away, and Utena in that timeline has to accept that, you know, he's dead and gone. It's like her favorite scene, I believe. So like,
yeah, I like that scene a lot too.
And therefore it retroactively, it's one of those things where it's like, sure, he's not dead in Revolutionary Girl Utena, the TV series, but clearly there was, if the author made such a dramatic change to him here, then we have to kind of reaccommodate that back into the original material. There was something missing that was meant to be there but didn't get there. And I think it's fair then to merge them, sort of. Especially because the plot involvement with him being, you know, sold and then molested is very heavy and you know, critical in his you know, character development. They use visual metaphor there of you know, watching butterflies metamorphosize. That's the right one. Good, I got I nailed the second one. Watching that happen, while he's, you know, being raped by his you know, now like forced father figure, that's rough. You know, he's having his sexual awakening in the worst context possible. But it's what he has to live with now, you know, and therefore when you look back on how he behaves around men and women, it makes more sense that he would do that. As ugly as of a thought as that is, you know, it's, I don't have the degree necessary to talk on this any further than I have, right? But in any case, I appreciate his character much more from that angle, having seen the movie.
Yes.
It muddies things a lot. Taking a step back, he's this insensitive and motivated character in like the play of the story. He's kind of like what Saionji wishes he was. Maybe without the polyamory, which, you know, I don't have a problem with at all. But Toga does, you know, play essentially toys with a lot of people all at once, which clearly doesn't have their best interests in mind, as they all kind of end up squabbling over him.
Right.
Something else I really appreciate about Toga, he problematizes the playboy or bad boy type in like shoujo manga, which in admittedly my limited experience, but growing experience with shoujo stuff, boy, they win in the end a lot. There's a lot of times where like the bad boy type wins the day, and that's usually either because they kind of get woobified a bit, or it's just always been about like the dominating type of relationship, and like those are perfectly okay as stories, but they're the glut of them. So it's nice to have Toga as like the what if, like, other end of that. You know, not necessarily. Yeah, again, I don't have enough shoujo experience to say like just how common it is that it needs to be, you know, put to test or challenged, but I appreciate it. Let's see. Also, I like and dislike that Toga becomes like an Akio Jr. kind of at the tail end of things. On one hand, it's seeing him act the way he does when he's been seduced by Akio is fascinating. But I also think he kind of stops being a character for a while in that. but there's already plenty going on, so I really can't complain.
Right.
I think that Toga's one of the most critical characters in the show for like a support beam reason. That he comes in with a neutral tone and these like this more suggestive form of toxic masculinity that can't easily be rationed away as him being an asshole like Sayonji or misguided like Miki. You know, he knows what he's doing, but he almost has like a riding the line, safe within the binding contract way of going about it, right? Like, he's controlling in a way which still has the facade of like a consensual relationship, or otherwise is, you know, pretty much everyone he's messing around with seems perfectly down for it, and it's not like they're getting, you know, literally roofied like Akio will do. We'll get to that. But in any case, yeah. If we didn't have Toga as that neutral stand-in, then I feel like everyone else would just be a bunch of bowling pins for Utena to knock down. He's the one that stands in the way of that, you know? Utena is attracted to him. What does that mean? Utena hates his guts. What does that mean? She has to work through both of those feelings if she wants to revolutionize the world.
Right.
Okay. Probably another quick one. Soji. The guy who was putting people in elevators in the Mikage seminar.
Oh, fuck. I forgot he was a character.
Yeah, season 2, bad guy.
Yeah, what happened to him?
He died. No, I'm kidding. I mean, like, so he was, like I said, he's the main antagonist of season 2 with the Black Rose duels and everything.
Yeah, no, I remember him.
And ultimately, Utena defeats him and makes him realize that his memories are failing him. That he's been
been
reappropriating his memories of I think it's Tokiko and Mamiya onto everybody else because he can't move on. And really, I think that's what's interesting about his character.
That.
You know, his character boils down to, like, at one part he says, "I am who I am," in response to someone that he's looking at as Tokiko. And to him, what he's saying is, I'm right in what I'm doing, but what he's actually saying is, oops, I haven't changed in a very long time, and it's causing people problems, and I'm not a good person for it.
I forgot about him.
Yeah. He's kind of, he's the shadow leader of season 2, so we really don't get exposed to him like we do with Toga or Akio, you know?
Yeah. No, I remember him vividly now, but I was like, what? Who?
Yeah, what are your feelings on him? If any.
It's interesting. It's interesting because it's one of those things where I feel like he's playing into that whole like, oh, there's a secret manipulating memory thing going around. Ooh, what does it mean? And then it doesn't mean anything. But it's interesting. It's interesting that he has false memories, but they don't really explain it. I don't know. I feel like he exists as a segue to the more interesting parts of the show.
Yeah, I can agree with that. The setup with the memorial hall and using the rose crest rings of dead people. That's metal.
That's a thing.
Yeah, you know,
that is pretty cool.
Before I think maybe it turns out that like that was also imagined, but in any case, you know, I think what he brings strongest to the series is his misuse of therapeutic practice to maintain the status quo. You know, it's not that I like seeing it, but it's worth seeing someone using, you know, this sort of like go deeper, look inside yourself style of therapy to just keep someone in the same place they've been in, you know, let it all out, but we're not going to get rid of that oppression. We're just going to internalize it hard. It's juicy, and I really like the antithesis of all of this being represented as a butterfly pinned on the wall that, as the elevator goes deeper, goes back into its cocoon and then turns back into a caterpillar and then onto like an egg on a leaf. It's neat.
Yeah, it is neat.
Okay. Penultimate character to talk about, Akio.
No, that's not the penultimate character to talk about. You know who it is. Akio's a piece of shit. Akio sucks ass. He has no redeeming qualities about him, except when he sits on the car hood, and you're like, "That's cool." He's a dick, and everyone knows an Akio, and I think that's what makes him a good character.
Yeah. Yeah, when you dig into like the lore of the show, there's a lot of ways you can look at Akio. Like, on one hand, he literally calls himself Lucifer at one point. Like,
yeah, but so does Homero.
Yeah, but in this case, like, what he's referring to is the split between his identity as Lord Dios, which is like an angelic, pure, noble soul, and himself as Akio, who is this like, seducer, and he's all about tempting people into this sinful way of going about a sexual relationship. So you can look at it that way. You can look at it in like the Adolescence of Utena way, which is to totally strip him of that mythological element and just say, no, he's just a terrible person who roofies his sister and then realizes that, like, oh wow, I really did this and that's terrible, and she wasn't even fully asleep and then dead, like, and then there's everything in between that, right? Terrible, awful human being, but boy, sure raises the stakes in the show.
Yes.
Everything that the show has problematized up to this point, Akio is the fucking alarm bells, like, red flags waving version of that. But it has a very, very gradual curve up to it. Even if you're detecting it, you don't really have the evidence yet until, you get closer to the end, and then you get, like, this exponential curve spike. Yeah, it's a lot. I don't want to spend too much time drilling over, like, the whole Dios and Akio half and half type of thing and the witch stuff. Like, I kind of don't care that much about that.
Right.
But I do think that he's well constructed. He's aiming to break the world's shell and to revolutionize the world, but Akio also seals himself into an actual projection of a fantasy world. He's all about the stars and totally entranced by them, but not even those are actually eternal. You can't ever own something even if you discover it, say a star, which he talks about for a while. And yet he still does his best to possess Anthe and Utena and anyone else he can.
Right.
Eternity is something that he desires so badly that he'll try to draw it from the youth of anyone he can. And that ambition is scary as hell and makes for a great antagonistic hook to end things off. He's like maximized entitlement. He sees himself as a prince who is a person of power above consequence, and to achieve his goals, he'll commit adultery, he'll manipulate people, he will, push them into unconsensual sex, or, make them believe that it was consensual when it really wasn't. yeah. Just fuck this dude. And like his hypocrisy and predation is all visible in his behaviors, which is really interesting to see on the second go around. Like, for example, there's a part where he tells Toga to take the wheel of the car, and Toga's like, I don't have a license, I'm underage. And he's like, no, just do it anyways. Like, fuck. That's very telling. He has an interesting hypocrisy thing going on with, Utena. He's boasting that, Utena, I told you back when I was the prince that you need to be pure and noble, but you were impure because you engaged with sexual relations with me when I'm married, or engaged. And he's like, you did this all on your own bidding. Meanwhile, he's ignoring the powerful influence that he has over her as an adult, as a member of the school, and all the charms that he's deliberately laying on her, He sincerely thinks he's doing nothing wrong, as far as I can tell. Yeah, scary, scary, scary stuff.
All right, now it's time to talk about the titular character of the show.
I knew you weren't talking that much because you're just waiting for Choo Choo. Okay. So, do you want to ask me about Choo Choo first, or do you want to read the wiki article I sent you?
I'll read the wiki article.
Okay.
Choo Choo is by far the most interesting part of Utena. Not because he's the most interesting character, but I'll talk about it. Choo Choo is a monkey in Revolutionary Girl Utena that serves as comic relief. This is from the Utena fandom wiki.
Mm-hmm.
Characteristics: male, hair color, purple, in parentheses, fur. Eye color is black. Complexion is pink. His occupation is Auntie's friend. Choo Choo's origin is not delved into, except for the fact that he is Auntie's friend. Choo Choo, to some viewers, is funny.
Everybody out there who helps write fandom wiki pages, our hearts go out to you. You make it all matter.
He is very small and looks like a monkey. I like this in part that he's not a monkey.
We don't know. We do not know Choo Choo's origins, Grant.
He wears an earring in his left ear and wears a tie that is exactly the same as Auntie's and other girls at Otori. Before Utena and Anthony get to know each other, Choo Choo is considered Auntie's only friend. He is her confidant and attempts to serve her protector from Sayoji, as Choo Choo has an immense dislike for the student council member. Choo Choo cares much for Auntie, and immediately takes a liking to Utena, as he realizes she is there to protect Auntie as well. In the last episode, Choo Choo leaves his tie on Otori's desk, just as Auntie leaves her glasses. Choo Choo leaves with Auntie to assist her in finding Utena. He makes a cameo appearance in the movie and the first scandalous tape, in a tiny scene where he has to deal with Nanami and her cow farm. And that is all of Choo Choo's. That's Choo Choo's wiki page.
That's all we got.
What a whack shit.
Well, Grant, what are you dying to ask me then? Because you've been hyping this up. What is it?
Yeah, I have. So I watched a video called Choo Choo's Best Moments. Well, actually, I looked up Choo Choo Revolution. I looked up best Choo Choo moments at Utena, and there is a YouTube video from 2007 in which you have the best moments of Choo Choo to the one song Butterfly. which is the one song that's like,
yeah, that's a
I'm
blast
your
from the
butter.
past.
Yeah, and I thought to myself, what is Choo Choo's purpose? If Utena is this meticulously crafted show where even a piano and chair floating off the bottom of the screen could possibly be used to be an allegory for something, what's Choo Choo's purpose? And so, my question is for you. When Choo Choo farts at his sleeping bag and almost kills himself from it, what does that mean?
I don't have anything in my notes about this. Here's the thing, okay? The thing is that Choo Choo is the universal counterbalance in Revolutionary Girl Utena. Choo Choo intervenes in the story in order to make certain characters meet each other, or to have an influence on characters for purposes of levity or annoyance in various magnitudes, such that everything happens right. Right? Like, oh, hey, we need you to talk to Soji, so Choo Choo's gonna accidentally get in the way. Okay. Hey, Choo Choo, where are you going? Uh-oh, it led me to here, etc. Right? So Choo Choo is like what balances everything to be fair. When Choo Choo Dutch ovens himself, what you're seeing is actually a common occurrence, which typically is not shown, in which Choo Choo has to debilitate his own strength as a cosmic entity in order to not upset the powers in the world. So if Choo Choo didn't push himself to a near-death experience, then he would have become too strong as an agent in the world of Revolutionary Girl Utena, and therefore could not serve out his role. So he actually has to do that to limit himself.
When Choo Choo eats the cheese, his face becomes very long. What does that mean, Brantley?
I definitely have an idea, but first, how many of these do you have lined up?
Yeah, well, it depends on how funny the joke is.
Fuck. When Choo Choo eats a cheese, it's very funny. It's one of Choo Choo's funny moments. That's important for the universal counterbalance in keeping the audience involved while the show needs to kill time and fill in their block on the television airing.
Can Choo Choo inflate his body, or was that a ability given to him by the pink-haired guy?
You know how in the wiki article it says that Choo Choo looks like a monkey?
Is he a balloon?
Might be a monkey. Might be something entirely different. Because Choo Choo's form is capable of shifting to whatever the universe calls of him.
Okay. That's all I have to ask about Choo Choo. He does eat an eraser at one point for some goddamn reason.
Do you want to ask me why he's in the movie?
Why is Choo Choo in the movie?
It's to keep Nanami preoccupied so that the story doesn't become too bloated. So he's actually taking the bullet for us.
Perfect. All right, that's all I had to talk about Choo Choo. He is the key to everything.
I'm fucking sweating. Okay, let's wrap things up. Do you want to talk about themes at all, or takeaways or anything, or do you want to just go towards hypotheticals?
Here's the thing. Well, my Choo Choos were my hypotheticals. Here's the thing about themes about Utena. There's a lot And depending on what you want to believe about it, you can change what you want to believe about it. It can mean so many goddamn different things that I don't think talking about themes is going to be conducive of a good discussion. Because we can talk about how it's about accepting who you are, or how the society paints people in little boxes, and the entire purpose is to break out of those boxes, and everyone is fluid, and you can also talk about how Toga is God or Jesus or some bullshit. I don't fucking know. It can be so much things. It is baby's first allegory. And it also is old person's last allegory. So there's too much to fucking go into.
Yeah. I love that in describing how we couldn't go into it, you went into it, which is very brave of you. Okay. It's hypotheticals time, baby. Okay, Grant. Whenever Utena dodges backwards or does a backflip, you know you fucked up. What is your move that tells someone they've sealed their fate with you?
So, I've recently started teaching 5th grade. That is my current occupation, and I love it. And I have a rain stick. And I turn the rain stick over, and when that rain stick turns over, that means be quiet. If I turn the rain stick over a second time, you know you fucked up, and now I take your recess away.
Damn.
They have until my brain stick is my fuck up moment. If I grab it, you know something bad's about to happen, and that is no recess.
How long till you start using it on me?
I will bring it home from class every day.
Oh god. I'm not ready. I think mine is if I start speaking back to someone in questions.
Oh god, you're so right. Oh no, my fuck up moment for not my students is when I stare at someone else with wide eyes, like oh, they just said that.
Yeah.
I do it a lot when I'm watching TV or media. I do it a lot when I'm playing Deadly Premonition, to no one in particular, but it means that I am ready to just absolutely open up a can of whoop ass. And vocal and possibly physical.
Yeah. For anybody who is listening to this and personally knows Grant, you know what this looks like.
Yeah,
it's a very distinctive part of being in front of Grant, is to see that face. That's how you know you've made it. That means you're a true close friend to Grant.
If I stare at you. Because normally the person I'm staring at wide-eyed is not the person that I'm about to or even...
Exactly.
It's I'm looking at you to get validation. And it's like, what the fuck? Now, to go back to your... to go back to your moment is when you start asking questions. It's like when we argue about Pokemon, which has happened on multiple occasions. And Brandley will be like, so are you gonna buy it? It's I remember before Sword and Shield came out, we had like a 2-hour conversation on whether it's a good game. And in the end, the final question was are you going to buy it, from Brantley to a bunch of people who were talking shit about it, and every single person said yes. They were right,
and I, being the sole defender, did not raise my hand. Oh boy. Okay. Last one. You and I get body swapped by the power of magic cooking. What is it that signals to everyone that I am not really Grant?
I have we fucking done this before?
I think maybe we might have.
I feel like we've talked about either... What show did we watch where there was a doppelganger that took over?
I don't remember.
Because I think...
But, I think this happened before. Hey, this is in line with themes of Revolutionary Girl Utena, in which memories are malleable and sometimes they affect you after a long period of not remembering them. They surface back up
I
again.
cannot remember what show this was.
So do you want to make a fresh version of this question then? And just do it over?
Was it Wandering Witch? No. Yeah. Okay, so how do people know that Brantley is not Grant? Is that the question?
Yeah.
You are so terribly not as confrontational as me. People would give opinions about things, and instead of immediately saying, "Nah, that fucking sucks," you would be like, "Yeah, I see your point," and people would like Brantley Grant a lot more than they like Grant.
I don't know about that, but I do know that yes, if someone was like, "Haha, fuck Madoka Magica," right? I'd be like, "Yeah." You're like, "Wait, what?"
I'm ready. That's when I give the wide eyes.
Yeah. I think mine is that you'd be walking around as me, doing menial things, and you'd start laying down Rap God flawlessly.
Fair.
Which I, in case you didn't realize, cannot do. For those at home listening.
You have any other hypotheticals?
No, I'm fresh out.
Well, I don't have anything else to say about Utena that is going to have any sort of cohesion.
Mm-hmm. Me neither.
So, the next thing we're going to do is figure out what the fuck Black Rock Shooter is. We watched the OVA already, and I still don't know what the fuck Black Rock Shooter is, but we're going to figure it out. So we're going to be doing our next review over the 8-episode miniseries of Black Rock Shooter, and we're going to watch the dub, I think.
Yeah.
Now, what's whack shit about the dub is I'm pretty sure it was dubbed last year in 2020.
And you want to save it for our episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's your tease, everybody.
Shit's whack. So we're going to watch Black Rock Shooter. So tune in for that. If you liked what you listened to, hit that subscribe button. Let us know what you think. We love comments. I tend to respond to most of them. Send a tweet at me at a familiar tarot 2. I'll link it in the description. Follow us. I run most of our social media, so...
Yeah. Or if this isn't up your alley and you somehow got to this point, check us out on Twitch, where Grant is playing through Deadly Premonition 2, A Blessing in Disguise.
It has been a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. That's usually 7 p.m. on Mondays is when we play that.
7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah.
Or you don't need to do any of this, because we are not your dads.